Welcome back, and we are going to continue analyzing and pointing to the most important points which were said yesterday in the press conference of Prime Minister Dr. Mohamed regarding the repercussions of COVID-19 and the Ukrainian-Russian struggle on the global economy and particularly on the Egyptian economy and our strategic plan to face these negative repercussions and what to do to achieve development on the ground and to continue on the right path which we have started since adopting our economic reform a few years ago. To shed more light on this, we are very much delighted to have with us via phone Dr. Mohamed Youssef, our economic expert. A very good morning to you, Dr. Youssef.
Good morning. Thank you for the introduction.
Sir, let's go immediately to the 5 pillars and starting with localizing our products or depending on our local products, our local production as one of the most important pillars of our plan facing the current global economic crisis which is taking place as we speak, even starting from the pandemic to the Russian-Ukrainian war.
Sure. When it comes to industry, I mean, the first thing that happened after COVID-19, already businesses have witnessed a problem in their supply chain. Already on their strategic direction, they were thinking towards going into other countries that are more closer to their markets. And we have seen that these strategies started materializing in certain countries where they are looking for the places where they can have their plants and thus input materials and then export from those countries. Of course, with the Russian crisis hitting, that became even more important, and that is why it is part of the government strategy as well to attract the foreign investment that can come into the country and increase industrial level. That is on one hand. On the other hand, in terms of already existing local industries and manufacturing, in order to develop that, we will need to upgrade. That's on one side, and increase the value addition so that we can actually have the quality that can permit us to export. Because having substituting the imports in itself will need us to work more towards, especially the input materials, and having it from the country or from within the region with the same quality that we were having before.
Well, sir, also among the most important points which were raised yesterday in the press conference was to give a bigger share for the private sector and to have, instead of 30%, 65%, and this is going to take place in the coming 3 years. In the very same time or in the very same day, there was a very important meeting which took place between presided over by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, and Minister of Communications and IT, Dr. Amr Talat. And the presidential directives were that clear to pave the way or to eliminate all obstacles on the way for Egyptian entrepreneurs and to implement or to apply on the ground tax exemptions for the startups. How do you see this? How do you see having the two in the very same day, meaning it's not only ink on paper, it's things which are going to be implemented on the ground, on the spot?
Yes, well, that's a vote of confidence. I mean, that we're seeing, because I mean that the main purpose of the press conference itself is actually to give the message that the economy is recovering and that the government is going to work hard on making that happen. And having on the same day the meeting and starting the implementation right away, that actually reinforces this message. So definitely in this time, I mean, one of the things that we need to focus on is actually implement whatever recommendations came out of the conference, simply because that would give the message either to international organizations, international financial institutions, as well as investors, that actually the government is implementing what they are recommending at the end of the day.
Sir, privatization, if there is a term like that, we tried to do it, I think two decades or 3 decades ago. And unfortunately, it was marred with corruption, let's face it. But this time, it's going to be totally different, and it's going to be based on scientific rules and economic rules to guarantee that it's going to be, inshallah, a story of success. How we can learn from the lost process lessons, and what's our homework to help the state in achieving its goals on the ground?
Well, I think, I mean, there are so many things that happen, and there are details on in terms of the privatization that happened before that we can learn from. But I would say the first thing and the most important would be actually to have the companies that are going to go for IPOs have a management, I would say, restructuring in the beginning, making sure that these businesses are already making at least profit or have the business plan that can support their growth. And accordingly, you know, any investor who would come and invest in those would be something lucrative for them, and hence can grow the business accordingly.
Sir, a yes or no question, because this is going to lead to another question. The bourse, the stock market, is it a real or I'm not going to say an active, is it a good indicator for the economy if it is going forward, or unfortunately it's suffering a setback? A yes or no question?
That's a difficult one, but I would say yes.
Okay. Why? Because one of the points which were raised is to merge the 7 main ports of Egypt into one under one company, and it's going to be listed in the Egyptian bourse. How do you see this as a move to support our stock indices, or to send a message to the international economic community that Egypt has a real resilient economy?
Well, the resilience comes from many aspects. But when it comes to you know, to having IPOs in the stock exchange, this in itself is an indicator that that there are certain businesses there that are stable and have the capacities to be traded upon, and that would attract investors in the stock exchange, whether international or local. In terms of just like I told you, I mean, all of the measures that are being taken is actually going to have a positive effect on the stock exchange, because this vote of confidence in itself would make investors look into Egypt with a different look in terms of not only among all emerging markets where they are all having troubles currently. But among those countries, we are actually taking steps, and these steps were announced, and then actions are being implemented as we speak.
Sir, if it was not the economic reform which we adopted in 2016, I think the case would be that different to the worse. And what Egypt started about 6 years ago, we are gaining its fruitful result these days, despite the fact that the whole world is suffering from COVID-19 and the lockdowns which took place for almost 2 years, and currently the Russian-Ukrainian crisis. Do you agree with me on that?
I agree, yes.
Great. Regarding the coming period, a lot of homework should be done. But why? Because we are going through the development path. In the same time, we are taking care, or the cabinet is taking care of the low-income brackets, and we are expanding our social solidarity networks, or the social economic protection plan for the needy brackets. How do you see this balance?
I mean, this balance was there from the start, even in the economic reform, as you mentioned, because I mean, it is one integral part, and we have seen the programs that's been implemented, whether Al-Takaful and Karama and other programs with developments in the different governorates, and we can see that on an infrastructural level and on a social and individual level as well. This is going to be a must in actually, you know, protecting those lower income groups from the effects, especially the increase in prices that happen because of the Ukrainian war, and even because of the devaluation as well. I mean, it is going to be a compounded increase in food prices, and this is going to have its toll on everyone, but in particular to the lower income groups, and that is why social safety nets are important in making sure that that this does not affect a multitude of people. So expanding on that, making sure that in the budget that there is dedicated amounts for protection, it becomes imperative. And that is clear from the strategy and from the presentation that was conducted yesterday, that this is one of the most important pillars, the 5 pillars that were mentioned, and it cannot go without having the proper attention towards it.
Dr. Youssef, I'm really enjoying our discussion, but unfortunately we're running out of time. I have only 2 minutes, but I should see the opportunity here to speak about something which is the layman on the street interest. I mean, we are not experts in economy, but we would find experts saying that the inflation rate, the hike of inflation rate in the United States, for example, is going to affect us here in Egypt. How?
Well, I mean, one thing that we need to realize when it comes to the dynamics of the inflation in Egypt, it's different than the rest of the world. In terms of our inflation, is actually not demand driven, but it's largely supply driven, unlike other countries and unlike the United States. Of course, inflation rates, when they are increased in certain countries like the U.S., the automatic effect would be on us is when they start using the tools and tightening their monetary policy by increasing the interest rate, which we've seen. Once they increase the interest rate, already the investors would fly from emerging markets, including Egypt, and putting their money in the States. That is the effect. The flight of the dollar from because of that effect is of course affecting us, and that is why the government is working towards attracting more investments, especially on the bonds and bills that we issue. We will see. I mean, in the coming MPC meeting, and I expect that central bank would definitely have an interesting discussion whether to increase our interest rates as well, and by how much, in order to at least combat the effect of the flight of the dollars.
Dr. Youssef, I'll give you 3 choices and you choose one, okay? About the coming phase: pessimistic, optimistic, cautiously optimistic. Very cautiously optimistic. The 4th one. Well, Dr. Mohamed Youssef, our economic expert, thank you very much for your valuable input, sir, and have a very good day.
Thank you. Thank you.
And by this, we come to the end of this episode of Score Sheet Kilometer of, our breakfast show. Stay tuned on Nile TV International always for more updates, and for more details, please log on to www.nileinternational.net. You are in the company of my dear colleague Amal Mukhtar and myself, Nermeen Abdurrahman. Many thanks for watching. It's a goodbye for now.